We added a cup and a half of all-purpose flour into it. Then we added in a tablespoon of garlic salt, a teaspoon of paprika, a teaspoon of dried basil, 2 teaspoons of dried oregano, a tablespoon and a half to 2 tablespoons of Italian spices, and then a teaspoon or a tablespoon of onion powder, and then parsley. We added about a tablespoon of dried parsley. So those are going to be our Italian spices for the breading of our chicken, because we're going to be making chicken Parmesan sliders. And we're going to make sure all those Italian spices really shine through in that breading. It will just go play really well with the marinara and the mozzarella cheese. So we're going to give this a nice stir, make sure it gets all mixed around. And it's really important to season up that dredge really nicely, because this is all the seasoning that your chicken's going to get. So the flavor has to come through that coating, which is in a large amount. We've got 3 eggs here. We're going to whisk up. I'm hoping I have enough. There we go. Just make sure you break all of those yolks into the whites, because you don't want it to be snotty. There we go. And then I'm going to prep. I got my panko breadcrumbs, Italian style, so it has a bit more seasoning. After we do our dredge, and then we'll add some more of this to it. Let's prep our chicken. We've got 2 big chicken breasts here. I'm just going to cut off some fat. That will only make it chewy on our chicken, so we don't want that. Here we go. There's a little bit of fat right here. And then I'm going to butterfly these and then kind of put them into small enough strips that will go on our yeast rolls that we had left over from yesterday. So they'll kind of be, we want them to be like a square and not too big, so they can go on there nicely. And then what it gets left over will just be some chicken tenders that the kids can eat, because I've got seven buns that we can use. Okay. But it's always nice to kind of use up some of our leftovers when we have them. I always like to repurpose them, because if they don't get used up within a day, the leftovers kind of just never get used up. We're going to butterfly this one, cut it all the way through. This is just to kind of thin it out so we don't have super huge pieces of chicken. There we go. This is a very thick breast, so I want to make sure. I'm going to cut it there. I feel like some of the breasts that I've been getting from Costco have been so big. There. Okay, we've got these all. I'm going to throw my fat away. We're done with our knife. And then we're going to do our nice dredging here. So we're going to go and put all of our chicken in this nice seasoned up dredge. And we're going to do this first one, and then we're going to add our panko breadcrumbs into it, so that it will have a nice crunch on it for our chicken Parmesan sliders. On this, I'm hoping I have about a half a jar of marinara sauce, so I'm hoping that will be enough for these, because I'm not going to have them like completely dripping in the marinara like you would if you were to serve it with pasta. And I'm hoping I don't have to open up another jar. Just use up what I had, because yesterday we made some homemade pizzas and we used that marinara sauce for the pizzas. Okay. We're going to give it a nice coat. And again, the reason we really season up this dredge is because this is the main seasoning for the chicken. And I always like to do a seasoned dredge instead of just a plain flour, because that flavor really sticks on there and it just gives so much more flavor to the chicken. Okay. And now we're going to add in about a cup and a half of panko breadcrumbs. I always like to get the seasoned one. I think they have a little bit more flavor when you fry up. So these are Italian seasoned. We're going to give it a nice little toss. And this is where I say use just one hand for your dredging and dipping here, so that you can have a free hand to clean it up. We're going to go in, coat it Then we're going to go over here and we're just push this breading onto it. And this will be the base for our chicken parm. Now, if you wanted to, you can add in some shredded Parmesan cheese to this mix too, and you'd have a nice little cheesy crisp up when you fry it. But we're going to be coating ours. We're going to put mozzarella on ours today. So I kind of put it right into the dredge and I didn't dip it. Silly me. But we're just going to do the mozzarella. That way I don't have to worry too much about the cheese getting stuck in my oil. There, nice. Coat it up and into the dredge with the panko breadcrumbs in it. And this is just going to give it a lovely breading that will stick to it. So that first coating of that flour really kind of creates a binder for the egg to stick to. Otherwise, it will slide right off your chicken breast. So that's really key to making sure your breading sticks. And I will say my kids love like fried chicken tenders or cutlets, anything like that. So anytime I make these, they're so happy. And, it's now I'm like with my kids home for summer, I'm making a lot more meals. I tell them, I said, you guys are on your own for one meal a day. And typically that's breakfast. Occasionally I'll make it for you or whatnot, but you've got to be able to take care of yourself for one meal a day.
Maybe a difficult question for you, but how many chicken strips are there?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I got 11 on here. I wasn't going to guesstimate. If I guesstimated, I would have been wrong. Counting's not my strong suit, but there are 11 on here. So we'll have, I've got, I think, enough buns. I think I have 7 yeast rolls left over from last night. So we can make 7 little mini chicken parms, and then there'll be some extra left over for just dipping and eating like chicken tenders, which I'm sure that will be torn. He loves chicken tenders. And the really funny thing is I made like chicken tenders last week or something like that. And Teddy stole one of my chicken tenders. And I go over there and he just ate all the breading off of it and left the chicken there. And I'm like, you can't do that. You can't just eat the breading. I mean, I know it's delicious, but you stole it from my plate and you didn't even enjoy it. Okay, we've got this nice and coated. There we go. And this is why you only use one hand. So you have a free hand to clean yourself up with. Things you learn. So I'm going to give my hands a quick wash here. Got to get my scrub brush out because definitely takes a good scrubbing. Okay. And we've got it up and clean. So I'm going to get some oil going here to fry up our chicken. So we're going to add a little bit of olive oil in here. You don't need a whole much that it's drowning each chicken into it, but you want enough that it kind of covers the whole bottom of it, but it doesn't have to be completely soaked in it.
You have a question. What are the ages of your kids?
So I have I keep saying 18 months, but he's now 20 months. He's, he does age. So I have a 20-month-old, a 4-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 15-year-old. So we've got a big collective group here. I'm going to let this oil heat up. And while we're doing that, let's prep our banana donuts. So apparently my kids decided they didn't want to eat bananas. So I have a bunch of ripe bananas. I even have more bananas that will be ripe and overripe in a couple of days. You know how kids are. They go one minute, they love bananas. The next minute, they don't. So banana donuts. They were all very excited that we're making banana donuts today. So we're making a double batch because I have about 6 bananas here. So we're going to take our very ripe bananas. The riper, the better. I prefer them if they're black, but these will do. The black, before they get moldy, makes them so sweet and it brings out the banana flavor. I know it might seem like unappetizing, but it makes for the best banana bread. And this is To make these, you've got to have overly ripe bananas. You can't use a ripe one. It just doesn't have any flavor and it doesn't have the right texture. So you need them to be super mushy and super sweet. There we go. So we've got our 6 bananas in here. And we're going to give them a good little whip up to start their mash. And I'm just going to use my hand mixer to get this going. And we just want them to kind of break apart and start turning into a banana soup. So we've got a little bit here. Once we add the brown sugar in, that sugar will literally cause it to go super soupy, which will be the base for it, because we don't add any other liquid other than melted butter into this. So we are going to add in 2 cups of brown sugar. And this again is going to be a double batch of this because we have so many bananas. This is a 1/2 cup, so I'm going to do 4 of these. Hopefully I'll be successful at counting that because it's only 4. And you want to make sure you pack your brown sugar down because brown sugar is pretty fluffy. And so if you don't pack it down, you'll actually end up with a significant amount, like less than it. There we go. Get off that extra crumbs on here. Put it right over here. I'm going to give my hands a quick rinse. And since I'm rinsing them, let's do the drip test and see how hot my oil is. See if it's ready. Not quite. A little bit longer, but that means it's going to start bubbling in just a second. So we're going to blend this sugar into it. And then this is where you're going to see it start to get really soupy, which is all those natural juices in the bananas and their liquefying. It just makes it so delicious. And it helps dissolve the sugar as well. And you're going to want to, for my banana donuts, I like to whisk them fairly well so they don't have a lot of chunks. Okay. Our oil looks like it's nice and hot and sizzling over here now. I'm going to turn it down to about a medium because you don't want it to be super hot. You want them to cook up but not burn. There we go. So I'm going to turn it down to about a 5. And we'll do about half of our chicken tenders in here. You don't want to overcrowd them. So we'll get, I think I can get 5 big ones in here. And that way I can fit the 6 smaller ones in the next one. And we're just going to let them fry up on medium heat for about 2 to 3 or so minutes, and then we'll flip them. Okay, we've got our nice soupy bananas and sugar here. We're going to add in 4 eggs. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. I have already gone through over a dozen eggs today. So from the chicken and this, that's 7 eggs. And then I made up 8 eggs for breakfast today for the littler ones. So it just tells you how many eggs we go through in a week. Just in one day, we've already gone through a dozen. I typically buy 5 dozen eggs, and it makes us a little over a week. It's kind of crazy. There we go. We've got our eggs in here. Now we're going to add in, this is 10 tablespoons of melted butter, and it is salted butter. So we're going to add in our melted butter. And you could switch the butter out for oil or like coconut oil, but I love just butter and melted butter in my baked goods. I think it tastes so much better. We're going to add in 4 teaspoons of baking powder. So the eggs plus the baking powder, that's going to be the rising agents for it. So 1, 2, oh, we're getting down to the last of this, 3, and 4. I need to make sure I buy more. Let's give this a good mix. And I always add my baking powder in before my flour to my wet ingredients. It helps it get dispersed throughout evenly. If you add the flour in, then it doesn't mix up as well. There we go. Now, we're almost done. We need a little bit of salt. So let me grab my little salt shaker over here.
Question. Could you mix it with a spoon or by hand, or do you need a mixer?
You can mix it with a spoon. A lot of times when I do a smaller batch, I do a spoon, but since it's a bigger batch, I decided to do it with a hand mixer. But yes, you could definitely mix it by hand. I'm going to put about 2 teaspoons of salt in here. There we go. If you use unsalted butter, you want to use a little bit more. And now it's time for the flour. So I'm going to put this back, grab my flour. I can smell the Italian spices in our chicken. It smells so good. Okay, we are going to use 4 cups of all-purpose flour. So no need to waste bread flour on this, just your good old all-purpose flour. Okay, and then I do have my donut maker heating up. So if you don't have a donut maker and you have a donut tray that you bake in the oven, you'd want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. And then you'd bake your donuts for about, 10 to 15 minutes, depending on what size you used. Okay.
What kind of white dog?
I'm not 100% sure. That's my aunt's dog. We're dog sitting. We're actually dog sitting lots of dogs today. There's 4 dogs in our house, so it's kind of crazy. I'm pretty sure. Did she say it was the Bichon? I'm not sure. I think that's what it is, if I said it correctly. It's small and white, and I feel really bad because our neighbors lost their dog and it looks exactly like it. And like 2 days ago, and our dog, I feel like they keep thinking it's there, or my aunt's dog is there. His name is Poppy. He's pretty sweet, and he gets along with our dogs fairly well. Okay, we're gonna mix our banana or our flour in, and this is going to give you a nice chunky lumpy batter. Now with anytime we use a butter base, you don't want to over mix it because that will leave you with a stiffer end product. So just mix it until it's chunky. That's why we mix in all of our ingredients in first before we add in that flour, so that it can be a nice fluffy mix. You don't have to over mix it. Let me grab a spatula here. Give it a nice little swirl around. And I will say, using by hand is going to prevent you from over mixing. So that's also a nice way to do it. I'm just going to do a couple swoops around to make sure you don't have any flour pockets. Let's flip our chicken over here because it is ready to flip. I can see the golden edges appearing. Look at that. Nice golden. And remember, we added in just a teaspoon of paprika, but that helps you get that rich golden color to your fried chicken, which you don't necessarily get when you don't use it. And it adds hardly any flavor. Okay, let that fry up right here. Let's get our first batch. And let me grab a small spoon because it's easier to scoop them in there with a spoon. Bring this a little bit closer. It's heating up. Here is our banana donut maker. I've had this thing since college, so it's been around the block a couple of times. I'm going to give it a quick spray. It is a non-stick surface, but I find just spraying it just makes sure they don't scoop out. Don't overfill your donut things, or you'll have a donut mess. So I just kind of do one scoop. You don't have to worry about putting them around the edges because it will press and then they will rise up into it. If you are doing a donut tray, like an oven sheet, you will want to put your banana donut mix into either a piping bag or a gallon-sized Ziploc baggie and pipe it around the circles of it so that you'll have a nice looking donut. But you don't have to do that with a donut maker like this because it kind of has a mold that presses it. So we're going to shut it. And then in about a minute or 2 minutes, I will say 2, it will be nice and ready and cooked through. That's nice. They cook really fast. Okay, let me get my fingers washed. And turn that down a smidge. I'm going to pull this out so I don't knock it over here because I'm kind of klutzy sometimes. And let's work on our garden salad that we're going to have with our chicken Parmesan sliders. So super simple. I'm almost ready. I planted, was it 4 plants of romaine lettuce, and I think they are ready. I've got some that are ready to harvest, and I'm kind of excited. I'm going to get my salad spinner out. So I don't know if you guys know what a salad spinner is, but it's essentially a bowl that has like a colander in it, and you like crank it and it spins it around, but it helps you wash your salad or fresh herbs or leaves by spinning it and pulling the water off. My kids love to use it during the summer when we're washing some of our lettuces or herbs. So I'm excited to get it out. They love to crank and pull it. But it is a great way to wash if you do your own harvest, especially if you harvest a lot of herbs or lettuces. Definitely need a salad spinner. You'll be surprised how much dirt you get off of it and you don't even realize. Okay, we've got our romaine. This is an English cucumber. Seal it up. Let me give it a quick wash. So English cucumbers have a very tender skin, and they're lovely in salads. You don't have to peel them, which makes them really nice. So we're just going to slice them up. They have such a tender, soft skin that you can bite right through them. They're just like a baby cucumber. So they're great for eating fresh. Pop our cucumbers in. Let's check on our chicken over here.
You have a question? Are you going to culinary school at all?
No, I am done with schooling. I've spent too many years in schooling. I just like to cook by myself with my own self-taught. You know, I have 2 undergraduate degrees, a master's degree, and a doctorate. So schooling is done. I don't think my husband could survive any more schooling. But I do love cooking and self-teaching myself on my own. But this is our Italian breaded, pan-fried chicken that we'll be using for our sliders. And you can just see all of those Italian spices coming through. They're gonna be so good. Okay, I'm gonna turn it up a smidge. We heated up the oil on high and then we brought it down to medium. That way you'll get the chicken cooked all the way through, but with a nice golden crust. Do not cook on high heat. If you do, you will have a burnt crust and a raw middle. So word to the wise, go low and slow for the perfect golden crust and all that jazz.
Yeah, follow up. What's your doctorate in?
My doctorate is in educational leadership and policy. So lots of degrees in education. So my undergrad I did early childhood and special education. My master's was in early childhood special ed. And then my doctorate was educational leadership and policy. So I used to be a teacher.
You have a question? Should you pound the chicken to make it more tender or not?
You don't need to do it because we cut them smaller and with that. So these will give you a nice, because we've cut them against the grain and that already causes them to be tender when you butterfly them in half. You could pound them out thinner if you had really thick ones, if you wanted them to cook more evenly, but you don't need to do it for this recipe because we've already cut them. And when you cut across the grain, that makes them more tender than if you were to cut with the grain. Let's add in some of our tomatoes. Give it a quick rinse. So these we're adding in, these are called like tiki tomatoes. They're like purple and orange. They taste like a cherry tomato, but slightly sweeter. My kids are loving them right now. They're so lovely. And let's make up a homemade vinaigrette to go with our salad. while our chicken is cooking up so that we can then put it in there. But before we do that, let me grab a fork and let's get our first batch out, because I'm pretty sure our first batch of donuts are ready to go. Look at our golden, beautiful donuts. So I'm going to pop them over to our tray. They're hot, but you can do like a slight touch on them. And pull off. I overfilled that one just a smidge. Here we go. And then I'm going to put, here we go. And then I'm going to get our next batch in. So we'll spray it. And then we're going to spoon it in. And I said, it goes pretty fast. And they are delicious. And the dough for the banana donuts is thicker, but it's thicker because we used butter. So if you do use an oil base for it instead, then you're going to have a runnier dough. That butter likes to solidify when it gets cold after it's melted, so it's not as. And then when you're done with us, so the way we serve our banana donuts is, take this. We've got our room temperature butter, and you just pull it down. And while they're hot, we're just going to rub it over the tops of each one. And then we're going to sprinkle them with a mixture of cinnamon sugar, which it just pairs so well with the banana donuts. So we always have cinnamon sugar in our house. So we're just going to pour it over here. It's just about, a half a cup of sugar with about 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. And it is perfection. But you could also do them with powdered sugar or leave them with some. People make a glaze for them, but you don't need to. Okay, let's make the base for our vinaigrette here. Got that. And we're going to do a creamy vinaigrette because my kids like their salad dressings a bit more creamy versus straight up. So we're going to add in a bit of mayo, just about 2 tablespoons of mayo. Then we're going to add in some olive oil, about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. So you're kind of keeping those equal parts. There we go. And then slide this over here. We are going to add in some balsamic vinaigrette. You're going to add in about 2 tablespoons. Maybe I've got my thing has measuring cups on it, so I'm using those to measure it out. I love my little salad shaker here. And
you have a question? Why add the mayo?
Then this is going to be for a creamy Italian vinaigrette. So if you want it to be just Italian vinaigrette, you can take out that mayo and substitute it with more olive oil. But my kids like a little bit of a creamier side to it. Let's flip our chicken real quick because it's smelling delicious. Let's slide this one. And my middle of my pan was just a smidge toastier, but nice golden crusts on all of them. There we go. Turn it down a smidge. Now we're going to add in the juice of a half a lemon. You don't need a whole lemon for this unless it's a small one. So you're aiming for about a tablespoon, just depending on how juicy your lemon is, but that fresh lemon juice is just perfect for this. And let me grab my spices over here real quick. We're going to grab some Italian spices, oregano. I saw my basil over here. Basil, garlic salt, parsley. Now, you can use fresh herbs, and fresh herbs are great, but that means your dressing has to be used up within a day or two, or ideally the same time because the fresh herbs don't. If you use dried herbs, this is going to last about a week. And we're going to add in about 1.5 teaspoons of garlic salt. Then we're going to add in 1 teaspoon of parsley. Let me take off the lid. It's a little bit easier with the lid off. 1 teaspoon of dried basil. teaspoon of oregano, and then a teaspoon of Italian herbs. There we go. And then we're going to give this a nice shake. And you'll have a delicious kind of creamy Italian vinaigrette, which is just lovely to top over our salad. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to put these over here.
You got a comment that this is better than Food Network.
Oh, well, thank you. This is Elsie Jensen Network here. Oh, beautiful. Okay, let's pop these guys out. So these are our banana donuts that we made with like 6 bananas today because we had a double batch. Brown sugar, which gives it a lovely kind of caramely flavor to it, just really enhances it so much nicer. And then flour, eggs, melted butter for just a really rich banana cake donut. And then we'll give them a nice smothering with room temperature butter. And this helps the cinnamon sugar stick to them. And it is so nice. It gives you the perfect amount of sweetness without being overly sweet. And you can still taste the banana bread flavor in the banana donuts, which is so lovely. Nice little shake all the way around. And they are just absolutely to die for. These are my kids' favorite ones. Anytime we have old or ripened bananas, they are requesting them. Okay, we've sprayed this down. Let's get our next set of batter moved in. My kids are going to be so happy. They love these. And you, like, I would say you could glaze them with anything, but I find that the cinnamon sugar is the best. And you would think, oh, banana bread, cinnamon sugar doesn't really go together. It does. It really does. It works like so well. Okay, let's get these cooked up over here before I knock you down again. Okay, now I think our chicken parms. We've got our chicken cooking out here. There we go. And then we're going to get ready to assemble these, and they'll pop in the oven for just a few minutes until we have the cheese bubbled on them, but we've got to assemble them first. I'm going to slide this right there. Let me wipe up my station here. Since I find you dredging chicken, there's no way to get around it. It's a messy business, but we can just slide it over for a little bit. We'll get a deep scrub later. That's one thing I do love about the quartz countertops. They're really easy to clean. Growing up, my mom, now she has quartz ones, but she had tile granite countertops. And the idea of putting tile as a countertop, like thinking from a germ standpoint, is just crazy with all that grout. Okay, so these were our leftover yeast rolls from last night's dinner. We made chicken cacciatore, and these are my like 1 hour yeast rolls. They're so delicious, go by really quick. And we are going to turn these into little chicken Parmesan sliders. So I'm just going to kind of break them all apart so we can assemble them. There we go. You could use like any roll you wanted to. Set that off.
Did you have a question? Do you make recipe cards for everything you make for subscribers?
Not everything. I try to get the most requested ones first, and I try to get them out. I do make a lot for subscribers. That's where all of my recipe cards go. I do, especially if there's a request for one, I'll try to get it. It does take me about like 30 minutes to an hour to get a recipe card together. So that's kind of why we have them for subscribers, because it is a bit more work for me. But I do have them. I definitely try to get all the baked goods out. Some of the things that are a bit harder to come out are like my soups and stuff like that, because I am one of those cooks who I don't follow a recipe. I follow like my knowledge in my head, like what flavors to go together. And that's why when I'm cooking on here, I try to tell exactly how much it is by saying it out. So you could always find the video and cook along with it. But for our subscribers, we do offer lots of recipe cards, and we try to put them out there, a couple of them a week for those, especially like any ones that are requested. Okay, let's get these going. Okay, let's get our chicken on our sliders here. So we're gonna do chicken first. I'm gonna put each one on here. Again, we'll have a couple chicken tenders left over I'm trying to find the most square ones to go on for just eating. There we go. And I've got one more. Might switch this one out for a slightly bigger one. Okay. And now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna get a spoon, and you're just gonna take any marinara sauce that you like. I love Rayo's. This is my favorite that I have found so far because it's not super sweet, and it's just delicious. And we're gonna just put a spoonful on each one. And again, if you were making chicken parm where you serve it with pasta, I would put my chicken tenders in a pot, like a saucepan with marinara, and then coat it with mozzarella cheese. But since these are sliders, we're just doing a spoonful on top of each one. And then you could always dip it in more. But if you put too much on, you're going to get a soggy bun. And then we've got our mozzarella cheese. And I'm just going to put a little pile on each one. So it'll be nice and delicious. Lots of cheesy to melt over them. It'll be so good. And then one more. And then we're going to let me just slide these around. And so that they will toast up the inside of these while the cheese melts. Let's go pop these in the oven. I have my oven set on the air fryer setting for 425. But if you don't have an air fryer setting, if you do convection bake at 425, it's very similar. It works kind of very similar as an air fryer, but it will help it bubble up and melt fast without overcooking your stuff. So I'm going to set my timer here for 2 minutes so I don't overcook them. And that cheese should be melted about then, and that bread should be nice and toasted up. You don't want to leave it in there much longer than that. Okay, let's see. I think our banana donuts, this next set is coming out. We're going to have a tower of banana donuts by the time, and I guarantee you these will be gone by tomorrow. Okay. See, this is what happens if you overfill. They'll squeeze out. So it's just like with your waffle maker. Just always I always say underfill it a little bit. It might not be the prettiest, but then you won't have to deal with the overflow. Waffles are the worst. It took me the longest time with my giant Belgian waffle maker to get the right sizing for it, because I would overfill it and then it would be like bursting out the sides, and it's a lot less than you think. So we'll add this in, and so good. It's just, I love. This is Teddy, when Chef Teddy, this is one of his favorite things he likes to help me make in the morning sometimes. During the school year, we'll be up early and we have some, bananas that are ready to go. And he's like, banana donuts. And he'll help me whip up, which means he tastes every 2 bites. He needs to taste. Now, while these are warm, you always got to do it when they're hot, and you need room temperature butter. You put it over it. You could always melt butter and brush it over, but I find doing this gives you just the right amount of butter. Sometimes when you brush it over, you get too much butter. This is the perfect amount to get them to stick. There we go. Nice thing. And here I'll show you guys what they look like inside. So this is our banana donut, and you see it's just so soft. We've got the squish, and it's so tender, and it's so good. Delicious.
Yeah, question. Where'd you get the donut maker?
This donut maker has been with me since college. I believe I got it at a Walmart in Ames, Iowa. So it's like I graduated from college in 2009. So it's old. But I think they make one on Amazon. Here we go. Look at that. We've got it nice and melted, and we've got our bread crisping up. Okay. Beautiful. Grab these rare. So these are our chicken sliders. So excited. Let's get them right here. This plate is apparently, it's a lot heavier than I expected. Let me slide this in here. And then let's get ready to plate up. But isn't our chicken sliders, Parmesan sliders, just gorgeous? Okay. Let's get ourselves plated up here. Okay. Let's start with the least exciting part, the salad, but we have a delicious homemade vinaigrette. So this is our fresh garden salad. Let me get some of those English cucumbers on it and the tiki tomatoes. And then we made our delicious creamy vinaigrette here, all of those Italian herbs in it. And it's just going to be so delicious, so bright. And then we have our chicken Parmesan slider. I'm going to grab one. We'll add it on here. So you've got that nice melted cheese, mozzarella, our fried up chicken tender marinara sauce. And these are on our yeast rolls that we made last night. And then, of course, let's not forget the star, our delicious banana donuts for dessert. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day. I try to show you what we make in our house, feed our family, and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on our page. So if you want to recreate any of our recipes at home, you can always go to that link, search for the video, and find them. We do offer lots of recipe cards for our subscribers if you want to go on that journey with us as well. But again, thank you guys so much for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe.